What is burnout and why does it happen to so many neurodivergents? Burnout really is the feeling of being physically, mentally, or emotionally exhausted, leading to a lack of interest in your work or leisure tasks. It's different than depression or anxiety. Oftentimes, there is a mix up between some of the feelings we associate with burnout and if someone has chronic depression. Typically, when we detach from the source of the work stress, we would go back to feeling our usual selves and sense of joy and purpose. So, depression is something that lasts way beyond that workplace trigger. And if that's something that you feel like you have, you need to go seek clinical counseling for that, as well as see a psychiatrist. But workplace burnout for neurodivergence is different and it's so common. What are some of the signs? Fatigue, mental brain fog, lack of energy for activities, lack of interest in social activities, reduced creativity, reduced motivation for your work, reduced empathy for others, just reduced social energy in general. I feel as though for me, masking is so hard. If I'm around people who I can't just be myself around, I spend so much energy trying to be something to cater to them instead of really focusing on who I am. The cycle of autistic burnout is a resource that we've linked below this video, as well as several research articles and other videos that we would highly recommend you take a look at. Why are we talking about burnout right now in the community? The thing is that we found a gap in research literature associated with neurodivergence and disability burnout. Typically speaking, young adults who identify as being neurodivergent are not cited in the literature and are often overlooked, and research associated with burnout is only corresponding and correlating to caregiver burnout when we know that there are tons of young adults out there who are ADHD, autistic, or other forms of neurodivergence who are not a burden on their caregivers and who are functioning in their college classes, their school classes in high school, or even maybe a first time job and experiencing these symptoms over and over again. What is more common in literature is that the literature is focusing on the caregiver, the family member, or an educator or other person involved in a young adult's life who might be classically autistic but experiencing more of the severity symptoms of autism. And yes, there is caregiver burnout when you have a child with a disability. However, there are so many young adults and adults in this world that are either diagnosed or undiagnosed who are autistic or ADHD who are experiencing burnout right now, especially in America's corporate culture and work driven society. So, how can we counteract this? Burnout's often a consequence of camouflaging and masking your true identity and your calling for your career. At iElevate, we are trying so hard to help our young adults identify their callings and break out of that camouflage and that mask so that they can really bring their full selves to society and make a difference in the world. Neurodivergence also, we tend to hyper focus or we spread ourselves way too thin on many projects. Why? There's an article below this around energy accounting in autistic burnout and why we do that. So check that out below after this video. There's also use and abuse in the workplace, where people who are brilliant get hired and then they're abused and not given the time, space, or money that they need to really pursue the passions and bring their full selves to the workplace. People also experience PTSD from the stigma associated with being neurodivergent and their past workplace experiences, including dissociation and feelings of burnout on the job. These become triggers that correspond to their past experiences, maybe with being bullied or having interactions that were misleading with their supervisors or their coworkers, miscommunication challenges, and other conflicts that they might have experienced, all related to the inability to navigate this crazy neurotypical and ableist society that we live in. There's a sensory overload that can happen as well from data inputs, emails, coworker conflict, people coming up to you, having to be in a service industry, back to back work tasks and demands. Last night on our group call, we talked a lot about our time management matrix, and that if you're in a job where you're spending all of your time focusing on high priority, urgent tasks, but that don't have any intrinsic meaning to you, you will burn out. Focusing on things that are intrinsically meaningful for you and at a pace that makes sense for the way your mind works is so important for feeling fulfilled and having the ability to sustain your career over the long haul. Check out all the studies we've linked below this and our tip sheets, tips to prevent burnout for neurodivergent young adults. And I hope to see you soon for a free consultation with iElevate to help launch your career, avoid burnout, and love your life.